Hello everyone, today we'll be talking about how to write a research proposal. So basically we're going to discuss the format, which is the same for both qualitative and quantitative study. However, the examples are a bit different. So we're going to include both examples of qualitative and quantitative study. So we always start with the title and table of contents. Then we talk about chapter 1, which basically includes the introduction, which comprises of the background and statement of the problem and justification. Then we got to the aim, objectives, and research questions. Then chapter 2 comprises of the literature review. Then chapter 3 consists of methodology, study design, list of variables, study site and population, sample size and sampling methods, data collection, data processing and analysis, ethical considerations, schedule of activities, budget, references, and appendices. So introduction. So what do we include in introduction? So basically it's substitution for all that follows. So that's like the introduction to whatever it is that you're about to do, right? So you need to start with the background, then you go to statement of the problem, aim, objectives, and research questions. So what is found in the background? So this basically includes theoretical and previous work that led to the hypothesis and the test. So it usually consists of the burden, which can be global, national, or local, or whatever it is that you're investigating. Then morbidity and the effects of the condition. Then control initiatives that are present. Then problems still existing or the gaps in literature. Then what's the need for your proposed research? So basically you talk about what has been done and what is it that is missing that you want to do and why you want to do it. What difference will it make? Next statement of the problem. So that's basically what problem exists, right? So when you talk about the underlying factors to the problem, then what are the consequences of not dealing with the problem? Then information of what other studies have done to try to solve the problem, and the barriers or challenges they faced, and any other relevant related information. Justification. So that's basically the expected effect or use of data that will be generated from your study. So once you do your study, so what's the effect going to be? Or what will be the use of the data that will be generated from your study? So aim. So basically an aim is something that's intended or desired to be obtained by one's effort. On the other hand, an objective is to do with achieving an object, it's about action. So pertaining to that whose delineation is not. So aim basically what do you desire to obtain, right? And then objective is basically achieving an object. It's about action, okay? So under objectives, we've got general objectives and specific objectives. Then research questions are closely related to general objectives and title of the study. So chapter 2 consists of literature review. So under literature review, we define the area of concern on the topic. So we talk about the overall trends. You summarize major findings that you may have found. Then you make comparisons of different literature. Then you include a summary of the knowledge and the gaps and inconsistencies. And then the purpose of your study in relation to the gaps identified. So basically literature review is literature review, reviewing literature, right? So you come up with the overall trends, you read that, you go through them. Then you need to summarize the major findings, anything that you find to be of significance. Then you need to compare different studies. Then you make a summary of the knowledge and the gaps that you may have noticed. Then you talk about the purpose of your study in relation to the gaps identified. So chapter 3 methods. So under methods you need to talk about the study site and population, the study design, the sample size and sampling methods, data collection and data analysis. So under study site and populations, when you're talking about study site, you need to mention the location. You need to mention the key relevant features of that area that you have chosen. Then you need to also mention why did you choose that site and not any other site. Then the health services that are offered there and relevant facilities. Then populations. Under population, you need to mention the general demographics, common health issues, and any unique characteristic that's relevant to study. Study design. So you need to mention the name of the design that you want to use, and you need to mention how it will be implemented. So study design can be quantitative or qualitative. So study designs that can be used in qualitative research include phenomenology, ethnography, grounded theory, and case study. Non-study designs in quantitative research include, so there's experimental and non-experimental. So under experimental, we've got clinical trials, and under non-experimental, we've got case control, cohort, cross-sectional studies. So sample size and sampling methods. So on sample size, you need to mention the formula you're going to use, the assumptions, the values of the parameters used, and the calculated sample. So sample size that's employed in qualitative research is small. So a maximum number would be about 20 to 30. That will depend on the type of qualitative method that you're using. So it usually does not exceed 20 or 30 members, okay? And then in quantitative study, we usually use a formula, which is this here. Then sampling method. So you need to mention the sampling technique and how it will be operationalized. So sampling methods under qualitative include purposive sampling, convenient sampling, quarter sampling, and snowball sampling. Then under quantitative study, we've got simple random sampling, we've got systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. Then on data collection, so you need to mention when will the data be collected and the duration that it will take. Who will collect the data? What method and tools will you use? With the participants. Then you need to link methods and participants. Then experiments, equipment, and methods of measurement. Then replications, recording of data, and sequence of different components. So basically, you need to put like the whole process of data collection. You need to mention when will it be collected, what will be the duration, who's going to collect it, what method will you use, what tools will you use, who will be the participants, how will data be recorded, etc. Then data analysis. So this should describe all important decisions made during the analysis of the data. So you need to clearly mention the outcome variables, to mention the relationship under consideration stated. You need to mention the type of data analyzed. So is it continuous or not? Was it normally distributed or not? Then statistical analysis conducted and why. Then need to mention the significance level used. Then any deviation from the standard procedure and why. So sometimes you might not be able to follow the exact procedure. So if there's any deviation, you need to justify why did that happen, what did you do. Then for qualitative data analysis, we usually use grounded theory, framework analysis, discourse analysis, and thematic analysis. And thematic analysis is the most commonly used. So under quantitative, so if you have got categorical variables such as gender and disease status, so first you'll have to report the numbers and the percentages. Then if you need to check whether gender is associated with disease status, use either the chi-squared or the Fisher's exact test. that will be used depending on whether the assumptions of a chi-square test are satisfied or not. Then for continuous variables such as weight and height, if the variable follows a normal distribution, the mean and standard deviation will be reported. Stratified by disease status, otherwise the median and interquartile range will be reported. Then to check any differences in the continuous variables with disease status, such as weight and height, either a t-test or Wilcoxon rank, some test will be used, depending on whether the assumptions of a t-test are satisfied or not. So basically categorical variables, right? So mostly used is either the chi-square test or the Fisher's test, okay? Then for continuous variables, you can use mean and standard deviation, or you can use the median and the interquartile range. Then ethical considerations. So you need to get informed consent, voluntary participation, you do no harm, you need to ensure there's confidentiality and anonymity. That is, the identity of the participants will not be disclosed. Then work plan. So this basically indicates the sequence of tasks, approximate length of time required for their completion, and the personnel required. Need to mention the budget that's going to translate the project activities into monetary terms. So how much will you need? Then the appendix. This is basically going to include details of mathematical models or calculations, detailed background arguments, maps, and questionnaires. Then you do not need, so do not forget references ever. So that's the format of referencing. So that's all about how to write a research proposal. Thank you.